Hello, and welcome to yet another LinkedIn Live with ICF. And today I'm truly honored to have as our guest Dr. Larry Parker Jr. Larry's resume is so diverse that I decided to let him introduce himself to you guys because so many facets, and I just want to talk about just about every single one of them. So, Larry, the floor is yours.
Manda, I appreciate that. And actually, we were just talking. I come from Texas. I found my way to the military through Annapolis, and I joined the Marine Corps. And I served 24 years uh, within the Marine Corps and retired just here in Tampa, Florida at MacDill Air Force Base. But it was a great career through logistics that took me around the world. I've lived 7 years in Japan. I've served on all coast, and then while in the Marine Corps, I also found myself teaching.
Mm.
Back in the day, we called it the box of books that we went on ship, and I was one of those instructors as we went around the world, and we taught some students. They had an opportunity to learn while we deployed, and in doing so, I found myself transitioning out. And in my transition course, I came across a great opportunity with American Public University System. And so um, that led me to being a department chair with them within the School of Business, the Wally E. Boston School of Business. And it's been great. Now, I bookended that with my military career and also my department chair experience as an educator. But in between that, I was an entrepreneur. I started several businesses, and we'll have
Wow.
an opportunity to talk on that. So yeah, it's been a fun ride.
It sounds like it, and my gosh, you got plenty of time still to go and play. If I may, since distinguished 24-year career with Marine Corps, um, especially with Marine Corps, but I think with any branches of the armed forces, there is a lot of talk about leadership, about need for leadership, about leadership development. So, where do you see coaching fitting into that scenario? And over your career time, have you seen any changes, any maybe greater uptake on coaching or coaching attitudes in armed forces?
Absolutely, and not to date myself too much, but I came into the service in the '90s, and it was at that time, there was great emphasis on just leadership, and it was
Mhm.
just broadly just leadership, and you learn through experience, and you would, you know, start to learn a little bit about mentorship. That was the term being used early on, and our service, so the Marine Corps, actually had a program where they promoted mentorship, and so it was that first time that you were supposed to methodically sit down and talk with someone and go over where they want to go with their goals and things. And I would say that was the first introduction that some military got to talking to people about what they wanted to do with their life, how things were going, and establishing a routine. But as time went on, there were a number of leaders that really promoted us getting to know a little bit more about those coaching tools. We didn't
Mm.
know it then. Now I look back on my career, that's what we were doing.
Mhm.
But self-assessments and what individuals would do now, and having the 360-degree assessments, all those things, actually I got those 20 years ago, but I didn't know that's what we were doing. But now, the services, all the senior leaders are a little bit more in touch with emotional intelligence and things of
Mhm.
that nature, and so they're very open to it. And I can see very many of them reaching out for coaching, and if not, doing more coaching themselves.
Right, you're a coach yourself, aren't you?
Yes, yes, yes. And that's been rewarding. Actually picking up tools as we've gone along, and I was doing that actually. Uh, a little bit, like I said, in the military, it gave you an opportunity to do some of that, but not knowing that's what it was called. And then at our university, uh, we had a department, a Center for Teaching and Learning, and they offered. an opportunity for us to get involved in coaching. And that's where I met some people that you and I both know that actually are within ICF. And that got me going down that road. And once you get involved, it's something that if you love it, you just continue.
Yeah.
That's where I started to get my hours in, and then I actually did my own coaching.
That's fantastic. That's great story. We'll get back to that a little bit later on, but uh, while learning a little bit more about you, I came across the statement that what you consider the most important is listening and respect for the other person, and listening, respect, sure. Listening is maybe not the first thing that comes to mind when you think about military. So, can you share with us a little bit more how you came to that?
Well, I have to give credit to my father.
Mhm.
Now amongst the services, there's a little band going back and forth, and I went off and joined the Marine Corps. Now he was an Army man, and so
Ooh.
I say that was one of my rebellious acts were to go off into the Marine Corps. So I probably didn't listen so much then, but he was the one that really stressed that, hey, make sure you respect the person that's across the desk or standing
Mm.
across from you, and that will go a long way. I may not be able to teach you so many other things about leadership, but I want to be able to make sure you have this one piece of information that you take forward. Now, the listening piece is something that I believe we all have challenges with, because especially if you're excited about something, you want to say what you have to say, and you want to interject something here. And so it's something I work with, and it was really my father that would stress, hey, listen, sit back, active listen. And I will tell you, if there's one thing that we could all do better, uh, it's the listening piece, and which is such an integral part of coaching. We
Sure.
there's so many programs out there that help you in speaking. There's
Mm.
organizations and local chapters that help you in speaking. There's things in high school that promote speaking and debating and things of
Right,
that nature.
right.
But I don't think I've run into one person that I would say that if we could teach our kids early on, or teach us if they had a class in listening, that'd probably be the most popular class that people would sign their family members up for. But we need it as well. So that's where that came from. My father, and he stressed actually a little bit of both.
That's actually fantastic suggestion, Larry. Bring the listening
Yeah.
class to the classroom at every level. The respect piece, it when I first saw it, it was like, yeah, that's just how we define what we do in coaching, right? We consider the other person whole,
Absolutely.
and capable. So that respect part definitely comes there. Speaking of respect, because I know that also during your military service and later you had keen interest in diversity and inclusion. So um, could you give us a little glimpse into what it meant for you as a representative, if you will, of the very powerful organization, but also for you as a person?
Well, you know, it was actually, during my military career, and that I ran into such a diverse range of individuals.
Right.
I was actually just speaking with someone the other day about uh, individuals you met when you went off to college. Sometimes it was from different parts of the world, and if you went to a local state college, it might even be a little bit smaller. But I remember when I went to Annapolis, my roommate was a person who had never seen in real life a African American person, a black person. And it like shocking. I'm like, hey, how can you be in the United States and you've never? But it was in the region that he was from. He's from North Dakota. I mean South Dakota, and so we talked about it, and we had a great friendship. He wound up becoming one of my best friends. And throughout my career, I had the opportunity to lead a very
Mm.
diverse group of individuals from all over the world. And so by being able to understand them, value their culture, and see what they brought to the table, uh, as for both professionally and personally, it made a difference. And so That's when I started my studies for my doctoral
Mm-hmm,
uh,
mm-hmm.
degree. All of that just it all went in line. I just went from one thing to the next, and I took those experiences. And once you become a senior leader and you have individuals from all over the world, uh, you want to make sure you have that connection, that you can build that trust, and that's where uh, being an inclusive organization and being able to talk to individuals and making them comfortable enough to open up to you, that's where the value comes in.
Yeah. So what I hear is you being such a great role model for that openness and for creating the safe environment for those conversations. Um, how do you go about leading a diverse team when people might not be, as you said, as familiar, as comfortable? Uh, they may just not know what to do and turning into a behavior that perhaps was good for them before, but in a very different circumstances. So as a leader with a keen interest and experience, if not expertise, in diversity and inclusion, how do you go about developing your team?
Well, and that's a great question. When I first dabbled into and first ventured into the diversity field, I actually had an opportunity to serve at headquarters Marine Corps
Mm.
and work in an office that focused on that. And
Oh.
one of the first questions was, "What's the business case?" And at first, I was kind of turned off by the initial question, but I had to think about it. What's the business case for diversity? Because
Mm.
through our history, the organization had always been successful. Marines, we had a reputation. We accomplished the mission. We make things happen. And I had to talk to them about, yes, individuals could accomplish a task or a mission, but how do they feel about it? And while they're doing it, what's the end result? Yes, you may get things accomplished, but if that person is lacking in self worth and actually is worse off afterwards and being a part of your organization, that's not something that we want. And so for an individual that can't see it or wonders if it's a trade-off, why should I be inclusive when someone or I'm already been successful? What I would say is you actually have an opportunity to be even more successful when you are open to the value
Mhm.
that someone brings. So, it's not a trade-off. Like I I'm I'm going to be just as inclusive as I can be, but protect my space over here. And I always tell people it doesn't work that way. You can actually be even better off by valuing what that person brings to the table the same way as they're going to value what you bring.
Yeah, yeah, that's I guess this kind of wisdom really applies to any type of business of line of duty. So this is great. And um, so you are the teacher now.
Hmm.
You are the American Public University system. You also had been, I think, once been, always been an entrepreneur.
Yes.
So those coaching skills that you acquired, either you know it or not, first in the military and then in a more formal way, um, have they served you in a similar way in those different stages, if you will, or chapters of your life?
Yes, and we go back to the thing that we actually opened up with listening. I will tell you actually, as I was going through my training, and this is for some of the newer coaches and wonder about this and wonder about the effectiveness of listening as we
Mm.
were doing some of the practice sessions and things of that nature. I actually called upon my best friend from second grade. I've known this man all my life, and I didn't realize how I could command a conversation, and I thought I was an effective coach. And I just give this one example is that he was working with me in business and some of my entrepreneurial work and doing some other things, and we got to a place where we didn't see eye to eye, but I
Mm.
wanted to practice my active listening. And so we went through the entire conversation. He could tell something was a little different because I was approaching our conversation a little differently. And after it was done, uh, he said, wow, we had a great conversation. Although
Uh-huh.
you didn't agree with what I ultimately proposed, it felt good that you listened, that you allowed me to get things out. And so I remember that conversation, years ago when I was first going through some of my coaching classes or through the coursework. And I just recalled, hey, I got to continue to use this technique throughout other aspects. And that goes with leading in the teaching environment. So, as a
Mm,
department chair, so I'm a professor, but I'm also a department chair. So, I lead a number of professors.
right.
And so, it's effective with listening to those that bring great ideas and
Mm,
how curriculum will work.
mm,
But then it's also with students. Individuals can have challenges within the course room, and so those same skills that we hone as a coach are effective there. And I've noticed even in business when it comes to uh, new clients, utilizing those skills and getting out what they want and what they want to see as the end result is very effective.
yeah, that's great. Okay, I want to take us into a little bit different territory, as some of our listeners may know, but you certainly helped us spark the idea at ICF to create the member resource group for veterans. We know that the population of veterans, you being one of them, of course, is significant. It's significant in this country. It's significant in other countries. Um, and I wanted to explore a couple of angles with you. One is, um, well, your best example. Is it natural? Is it desirable? Is it easy for a veteran, for the military person, to actually turn into being a coach?
I will say that it it builds upon the skills that we learn.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone that joins the military, at some point, are set on a track to become a leader. It's a step process that once you join, you will come in at E1 and E2, E3. That's if you come in enlisted. And the same way with officer, there's steps and processes to go higher in the service. With that comes responsibility. And
Yeah.
so, with those responsibilities, you're leading others. And with that leadership skills, you are introduced to coaching. Coaching is going to bring you along those ways of how best to inspire individuals or help them become their better selves. So I want to keep that straight. So as for coaching, you get to determine where someone wants to go,
Mm.
and be able to use your skills there. And so just to throw out some statistics for individuals to be aware, there's roughly about 180,000 individuals currently now that join the service every year, but every year there's, because the service is going down right now, uh, 200,000 that are leaving the service. So 200,000 veterans, whether they've completed 20 years or if they've just completed an enlistment or had to get out for some medical terms or
Sure.
reasons, but 200,000 veterans are entering, society every year, and that's a number of individuals that are coming out with skills in interacting with others and looking to get the best out of those individuals and accomplishing things.
Right. Right. So a little bit of a perhaps the other side of the same coin is we do hear about certain programs that are focusing on veterans, uh, helping them transition to civilian life or dealing with some unfortunate trauma. What's your opinion about veterans working with a professional coach?
I would recommend it every day, all day, because really anyone that can help you transition,
Mhm.
better, because it is a culture, it is a lifestyle for
Mm,
however long that you've been in. you have to think you're surrounded by individuals that are doing very much the same thing in the same uniform, same fashion, and then you're going to leave that structured lifestyle and move out into a what would be a civilian lifestyle or
Hmm.
something that's very new. And so a coach can help you with that transition, bridge some of those gaps, some of the terminology and some of the expectations. And that's what I would tell also a coach that would seek to help someone who's a veteran. You know, that's probably the most challenging thing that you would be asked is to help bridge that gap. So I would ask you, or at least ask that you help by learning a little bit about the culture, depending on what service that individual is from, and that's going to
Mm.
probably help you help them, because every service has their own culture. It's the little things, like for example, uh, a soldier is Army. If you call someone in the Marine Corps a soldier, they may be polite and take it, but it's a cultural nuance.
Right.
We all take it, but that's like calling someone an airman that might be in the Navy or something like that. So it's those little things that if you want to help your transition or help your coaching and facilitate, that going a long way, it, learn the culture.
That sparks a question for me because in coaching, we do say that once trained in competencies in a coaching process, it's not critical or not crucial that an individual has a direct knowledge of the industry or culture, to your point, that
Mhm.
the client may be coming from or maybe still a part of. What do you think? Is it beneficial for a coach who happens to be veteran working with veterans? Does it matter, or maybe that's not such a good idea after all?
It actually is going to depend on the veteran that you're working with,
Mm,
because well, the reason I say this is because some want to expedite that separation from service,
yeah.
for whatever reason. It may be good or bad. Um, some individuals leave the service and go back and work very closely with the service. In
Mm-hmm.
some cases, they work directly in the same office. They just change
Mm-hmm.
and put a tie on. But others like to get further away. And so I would think uh, you can look at it from that standpoint. Coaching would very much be the same. Some may want a coach that
Yeah.
uh, can understand where they're coming from, or they don't have to translate so many things. And so a veteran helping a veteran can help in those cases. And uh, just as long as that veteran, is aware, and that's one thing that a coach would have to make sure that they keep in mind, that
Yeah.
uh, we're not keeping them in that space. Pay attention and listen to where that individual wants to go with their life, with their career,
Right.
and just realize they're not trying to stay in the military. You just may be able to help facilitate it because they're have to explain less maybe, or you can relate to certain things a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
the individual that doesn't have military experience can, I would expect, would be just as effective. My suggestion was just that you understand maybe a little bit, because then you might be able to pick up on certain nuances of things that they say.
Definitely, definitely. There are some that could be some blind spots, but
Mhm.
also lack of that knowledge may create some issues as well. You're right about that, definitely. So, as always, we're coming close to the end of our time together.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
I wanted to talk to you about something else, and it is that again, these are, I do not have statistics, but we do hear quite a bit about veterans not being super. That's for some. It's not really easy to find a new employment after they leave a military, which finding a new employment, I can imagine, is a tremendous part of that of the transition and being successfully transitioning to civilian life. You're in in an educational environment now. You've clearly been very successful with your transition.
Thank you.
Anything that you would say to your fellow veterans, but also perhaps to universities, to schools, and to the employers? Uh, what would that be that you think would be useful for them to know and do, so that they are part of that transition team to for so many 200,000 a year individuals leaving military?
Well, there's a couple of things. One, for the veteran that or soon to be veteran, because there's two things I want to throw out there.
Mm.
Those that are, because uh, everyone's required to take a transition course, and I'm
Uh-huh.
glad that's mandated. But I would say do it 2 years out. So that's something concrete that I would tell someone, because there's so much information and so many opportunities that are out there. You being aware of them at least 2 years prior to you leaving the service gives you some time.
Mm.
For example, I went through transition and I actually found this opportunity that I had with American Public University. Uh, During the transition, they were just actually showing you how to find jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And as we're going through the website, and they're doing it real time, I actually saw this opportunity and I later applied. Okay. Now, as for the veteran, I can say that there's actually, and because I spoke on this recently, I have these numbers. Only about 50% are utilizing their educational benefits
Oh.
to
Mm-hmm.
train and to get certifications and things of that nature. And so I would tell you, make sure you look into every opportunity. So if you need to retrain or to go specifically for a particular certification or degree to help you, make sure you check with the Veterans Administration. And there's a number of educational benefits that we have as being a service member. Some of
Mm-hmm.
those you can do while you're still in, and then others you earned early on. And so those are two things there. And then the last thing I would say is, to those employers, there's a lot of individuals that are coming with a lot of passion and skills. And I would say, the sky's the limit. Don't limit those veterans. There's a lot of skills that they may not even know how to articulate it in their resume, but they're leaders. They've been have a vast amount of experiences around the world, and
Yeah.
you would likely be surprised if you just ask what they could do.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for that. And I think
Uh,
everybody can get a little bit of a glimpse of wisdom right now from you. And of course, we are very proud at ICF that ACC accreditation is now being accepted by Department of Defense for as part of its cool program, which I think is very cool. So
yeah,
that's yet another opportunity for those who may be interested in becoming coaches or gaining more knowledge about coaching skills. And I want to remind everybody again about the member resource group that we offer at ICF for veterans. I think that's a fantastic networking opportunity. And Larry, thank you for helping us really create it. And now you're helping lead
absolutely,
that particular group. So, yep, we are at the end of our time. Larry, thank you so very much for
absolutely,
accepting our
Margaret.
invitation, for everything you shared with us. We're talking a little bit of a niche, but as we also as you helped us understand, it's a very vast group of population that is part of either active duty or the veterans. So, thank you again, and
You're
we
welcome.
so appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you for having me.